Okay, last week we did the web browser demo, and most everybody's got that working now. The problem with the web browser demo is it's really just stuck in iPhone mode only. So let's run it real quick and see what I'm talking about. So if I run it, and up comes the simulator, and we're in the iPhone mode. Here's what your app should look like. Notice I haven't changed mine to be UTM yet. Mine's just the original default program that we did, but yours should be pretty much the same, except hopefully you changed it to UTM. But the problem is it runs in iPhone only. Let me show you how to make it run in the iPad simulator and then see what's different. So if we quit the simulator, right up here at the top of your project where it says simulator, if you click this, you can tell it to run in the iPad simulator. Now a program will run in the iPad simulator, but as you notice, it comes up in iPad mode. Now I can't, for some reason, I can't screen capture the whole simulator on the screen, but basically it's just black around the iPad. There is a 2x button at the bottom, so I can switch to that, but you can see it's grainy and it's just not what you want. So we need to go in and make a new project and copy some stuff up and do a little bit of work so that we can actually have this be a proper universal application that will run properly on iPad as well as iPhone. So to do that, Xcode, in Xcode with your old project up, just go ahead and create a new project. So File, New Project. We want it to be an iOS application, Windows-based application, Universal. And then we click Choose. And now we tell it where to put the project. You can tell I've been trying it several times, so I'm going to call this Try Universal, or Try 3 Universal, since this is the third time I've done it. Okay, so that creates a new project, and it's very similar to our other project, except we have a bunch of different groups now. So we have a group for code and resources that are just for the iPad. We have a group for stuff that's just for the iPhone, and then we have a shared that's for both. Okay, so let's get the iPhone version working in this one first, and then once we get the iPhone version working, then we will get the iPad working. It is going to take a little bit of work. There's probably easier ways to do this, but we're just going to go ahead and do it this way. So the first thing we need to do is to change our demo app delegate. That is now our app delegate, either iPhone or iPad. So let's work on the app delegate iPhone first. So click on your new project here. Here's the new one. Now we're going to go to the old one. So demo app delegate, and really we need to add in the navigation controller, both the field here and the property down here. Now I'm going to cheat and just grab all three of these. So notice I'm copying from everything after window to just before end, and then I come over here to the new one and I select everything after window to just before end and do a paste, and there's the navigation controller there. Now we hit this little button here, and this switches us over to the M file. We hit this little button here, we're over at the M. So we need to grab the synthesize command. So this actually tells it to create that property. So I'm going to paste that in. And then I think the only part that was changed in this file was in the application did finish launching. So right before make key and visible, we copy this line that actually wires up the subview for the navigation controller. So we come over here to the new one, and application did finish launching, paste that little bit of code in right before the make key invisible. Okay, so that has got the code there. Let's go ahead and drag the other code over. We're going to have to redo the zip files, so we'll wind up having two different sets of zip files, but the main code we'll share that. So let's go ahead and grab over the main code. So the main code that we want is we want the root view controller.h, and if you hold down the cloverleaf key, we can select multiple, so root view controller.m, my web view controller.h, and my web view controller.m. And let me make this window a little smaller. And what we want to do is we want to drag those into the shared group. So I'm going to drag them over into the shared group of the new one, and say sure, go ahead and copy and add. Okay, so there is our files, and turns out we're not going to have to make but one change in those files to get things to work right, but we'll deal with that in a minute. Next, let's go ahead and grab our zip files. And so the zip files we need, my webviewcontroller.zip and rootviewcontroller.zip. I'm going to drag these into the iPhone group and say sure, copy. And now, just so that I can be consistent and keep track of things, I'm going to rename them. So this one's going to have underscore iPhone at the end, and this one's going to have underscore iPhone. Okay, and that renaming is going to cause a problem, but we'll see that in a minute. Alright, now we have to make our main start zib. We have to make that work correctly. In the old system, the main start zib was called mainwindow.zib. In the new one, it's going to be called mainwindow.iphone. Okay, so let's load up the old one and see what we had. So mainwindow.zib from the old one. We could drag it over, but it's better just to recreate it. So basically, it has, the only thing that we add to it is a navigation controller, and then we link the navigation controller to our root view controller. Okay, so let's do that on the new one. So I'm going to quit, and I'm going to come back over here. So here's my new one. Double click on main window iphone.zib. Okay, so I need to drag over a navigation controller. Okay. Now, I always forget to do this. We really need to build our project back here before we finish wiring this up. So I'm going to quit this guy and save it. I'm going to build my new project so that it saves everything. Excellent, it succeeded, no errors. Now I'm going to double click on my main window. The reason we had to do that is because if you don't build it, then you won't have the little connectors that you need. In particular, under App Delegate, we have a connector for navigation controller and a connector for, well, I think that's all we really have to wire up. So we just drag the navigation controller, the little button on there, to our navigation controller. Okay, now the other thing that we need to do is we need to open up the new navigation controller, bring in the inspector, click on the view, click on the view again, click on this first tab, and see it wants the nib name. So this should go to root view controller iPhone. And the second thing that I think that we have to do is we have to click over here on the last tab and tell it that this guy is going to be a root view controller. Okay, let's hold our breath, see what happens. So let's quit interface builder, get this window and save. We're going to run it. Hey, it didn't crash right away. There's what we're expecting. Now, unfortunately, if we click on a button, we get a crash. And you know, if you work with this stuff, you get crashes a lot. So what you should always do if you get a crash like that is switch back to the IDE, come under Run and do Console, and you will have a stack trace and a crash. So if we go up to the top, it's going to say blah, 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 blah. The key thing here is could not load the nib. Okay. And so it's looking for a nib, and it's looking for my web view controller, but guess what? We renamed it to my web view controller underscore iPhone. Okay, so we come over here. That is in the root view controller.m. So root view controller.m. And if we come down here Yeah, this line right here. Let's make this guy bigger so that we can see it. Yeah, so basically when we click on a button and it calls show URL, it's telling the root view controller to go load this nib, and it's just manually has the name of the nib in here, so we just do underscore iPhone. Alright, so now let's try that. Boom. And boom. Alright, so now we're back to where we were. So that took a little while just to get back to where we were, but now we're ready to make the iPad versions.